An anguished Israel says goodbye. Yitzhak Rabin lies in state as the Jewish state mourns his murder. Leaders from around the world are heading to Jerusalem to pay homage, as the future of Mideast peace process is very much in question.
From NBC News, this is NBC Nightly News, reported by Giselle Fernandez.
Tonight, the world prepares to bid shalom to one of its most respected leaders. Good evening, everyone. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, cut down by an assassin's bullet, will be buried tomorrow. President Clinton and dignitaries from around the globe are converging on Jerusalem to pay their last respects. NBC's Tom Brokaw is in Jerusalem tonight outside the Israeli Parliament building where Rabin is lying in state. Tom, good evening.
Good evening, Giselle, and good evening, everyone from Jerusalem, this ancient city that has known so much heartache down through the ages. Thousands of Israelis are pouring by the body of Yitzhak Rabin tonight. They're in shock, they're in mourning, and they're in painful wonder, wondering how this could have happened. A Jewish leader, a modern hero, killed by another Jew. There is an underlying fear tonight, wondering whether this could lead to a Jewish civil war. But first, the national mourning. We begin tonight with NBC's Jim Masada.
It was the beginning of a fallen soldier's final voyage. From Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, where it would lie in state, the body of the war hero turned peacemaker was escorted by a simple military guard in an army truck. His name and rank, Lieutenant General Yitzhak Rabin, on top of a coffin draped by the flag of Israel. And all of Israel was in mourning, young and old, soldier and civilian. In shock, not only because the first Israeli leader since the creation of the state in 1948 had been assassinated, but that the assassin was a Jew.
I don't know, it's quite frightening to think, but I hope we're going to continue in the same way we began to go on with the peace process.
I hope the logic of the civilized people will overcome.
Led by his widow, Leah, and their children, members of the Israeli government filed past the slain prime minister's coffin and offered condolences to the stricken family. In attendance, not only those who supported Rabin, but also those opposed to peace with the Palestinians. Today, grief seemed to transcend politics.
I think that in a time like this, we should all be together and we should be connected.
Throughout the day, tens of thousands of Israelis paid their respects, racing for the future.
We can't get over it yet. I mean, it's horrible, but we go on.
In schoolrooms across Israel, children obeyed a minute of silence. Then some sang the song of peace Rabin had sung at a rally before he died. In the West Bank and Gaza Strip, Palestinians were also stunned.
We lost a very big man, a man of peace.
Then they learned that territories would be closed indefinitely as a security measure. In Gaza, PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat attended to official business. Restating his sadness over Rabin's death, he said he would not attend tomorrow's funeral in Jerusalem. His presence, Arafat thought, would only increase tensions.
You know, we are not hate-free yet, and we do not want to complicate the things for the Israelis at the time.
Tonight in Tel Aviv, on the square where Rabin was killed, the candlelight vigil continued, so did the outpouring of emotion. Tomorrow, mourners will be joined by world leaders whose very presence will lend support to Rabin's peace efforts. But whatever happens next, Israelis say they and their nation will never be the same. Jim Masada, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
However, Arafat was not the only one speaking for the Palestinians tonight. A leader of one of the radical Palestinian organizations said, "My only regret is that Rabin was killed by a Jew because he should have been killed by a Palestinian." But of course he was not. He was killed, in fact, by a young Jewish zealot. NBC's Martin Fletcher tonight on the assassin and the assassination.
This is the man charged with assassinating Yitzhak Rabin, Yigal Amir, a 27-year-old law student from the extreme right wing. In July, being dragged from a West Bank hilltop after Jews tried to establish a new settlement against government orders. On being arrested after the assassination, Amir told interrogators he acted alone, following only the orders of God. But Amir had close relations with a right-wing Jewish group called Eyal, seen here training for the camera. They've long advocated violence to kill the Mideast peace process, although its leaders condemned the assassination of Rabin. Security services did not take seriously the threat of violence from Eyal. They're mostly young people, more given to threats than action. But security officials did warn that their violent rhetoric could inflame hotheads, and that's exactly what happened last night. Other right-wing groups have threatened civil war rather than give up the land they believe God gave the Jews. But still, officials believe the real threat comes from individuals, not groups.
The people who are actually saying, who are actually getting carried away by the rhetoric, do not mean to kill, but others execute.
Amir told interrogators that at yesterday's peace rally, he had intended to kill not only Rabin, but also Foreign Minister Shimon Peres. He changed his mind at the last minute when they left the stage separately, and he went for Rabin. Now Shimon Peres has become Israel's acting prime minister, and immediately Peres promised to follow in Rabin's footsteps.
I'm sure that there is nothing else that we can do as human beings, as comrades, as friends, but to continue.
Peres is seen as the father of the peace process, the visionary who began secret talks with the Palestinians. As acting prime minister, he's expected to push the peace process forward as fast as he can. The danger is that Peres could be as vulnerable as Rabin to a lone killer. Israel's security services have already begun an investigation into what went wrong, and they'll be under intense pressure to make sure no other prime minister is killed. Martin Fletcher, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
Israelis are very proud of their democracy, and they love to argue every issue, large and small. But this debate over the attempt to find peace with the Palestinians has been unusually rancorous, even poisonous. Tonight, I spoke with the leader of the primary opposition party, the Likud, a very shaken Benjamin Netanyahu, who pledged to do all that he could to support the caretaker government.
The necessary thing right now is to try to heal as much as we can this wound and bring the people together. I cannot accept that governments in Israel will be changed by an assassin's bullet.